Okay. So tell me about your trip now. So you've been going through the Ukraine.
Yeah,
You're in
man.
Turkey now. I mean, I've seen pictures of you going, to some old, just some really cool stuff, man. Some old Soviet Union theme
Yeah.
parks and tank graveyards or something. I can't remember, or maybe it's
You're,
airplane grave. But
oh man, there's hundreds of things.
you've seen some cool stuff, man.
That's what it's all about, brother. I mean, look, you take a motorcycle because you want to go off the beaten path. You don't want to just go on the highway and just go to Starbucks, talk about how you're an adventure rider. Like that's what most people on a GS 1200 BMW do, and have all the top of the line gear, and they've ridden like 2 hours in the last 3 years. Congratulations, bravo. But man, like I just talk with people when I'm in different countries, and I'm like, you know of any abandoned factories or war monuments or ancient ruins or waterfalls? And oh yeah, when I was a kid, we used to go here, and I get my map out. I use Google Maps. I put pins, man. I've got man 3,000 pins just in Europe, just in Europe, like in Eastern Europe. I probably have 800 or 900 pins because everywhere you go, there's some kind of history. You have World War One, World War Two. Then you have like the Soviet Union, all these communist era monuments. It's absolutely incredible. And like, this is not, I mean, they are old, 70, 80, 90 years old, but like, they're still in relatively good shape because, man, they built stuff to last back in the day. I mean, these are all concrete bunkers. And I went to a place that in Ukraine, and until 1993, it had an active nuclear warhead. So this was an intercontinental ballistic missile silo. So they use meters over here, obviously. So it's like 43 meters below ground, which is about 130 feet, something like that. And this is where the end of the world would have happened. They could have hit New York in 23 minutes with a nuke from this. And it was such a top secret place with the USSR. They had it camouflaged with a giant roof over it. And they had secret trains that came with nuclear missiles. And the trains, they looked identical to a normal train, except on the inside, it was holding a giant missile, like a nuclear warhead. But it had two sets of wheels, like two and two, instead of just the normal two, because it was so much weight.
Mm-hmm.
The wheels would physically like break apart because apparently intercontinental ballistic nuclear missiles are quite heavy. And so we had like the SR-71 Blackbird flying over it up. We would watch, and they knew they had about 8 minutes, because this is way before satellites and all that stuff that's got to where we have today. They had about 8 minutes where they could get the train there, take a big ass machine, roll it out, lift it up, drop it in the tube, and then get the train out of there before the United States knows that there's a missile there. And man, like I got to spend the night there with the guards, and they used to work at this base back in the day when it was the Soviet Union. And they were telling me the stories about like all this stuff in the 70s, 80s, and how there was a couple of times where they were like sweating bullets because I mean, like they were the guys that were supposed to launch it. They had two keys, and it's just like in the movies, like one guy's here and one guy's on the other side of the room, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now you can launch the world. So I got to hold the key to the end of the world, and it's
Holy
big,
shit!
key. And I got to sit in the chair where, in theory, you would have sat and launched the thing. And man, like those guys were awesome. We stayed up all night drinking vodka and eating some soup and some steaks that they grilled up. Just one in a million, amazing, spectacular.
Man, that is so cool. I just saw pictures of you with some group of military guys over in Turkey. I guess I don't know. Look like, yeah. I mean, you've met the connections and the friends you've made. It's crazy. And we're gonna give out your Instagram handle and all that, so people got to go check these picture out. It's just awesome. It's so cool, man. Tell me, how far along are you in your journey over there, and how much longer are you going to be over there, and where are you going next, man? What's the plan? Do you have
sure.
Do you have a plan for your next? Is this trip almost wrapping up, or are you just in the middle of it? You've been there for what, a couple of years now?
Man, it feels like a couple of years. I've been here in Turkey almost 10 months now because of the coronavirus lockdown, man. I mean, I have been in Europe for a year and a half because originally my plan, I want to go completely around the planet, all the way from Oklahoma City back to Oklahoma City. And I wanted to go east. And the best reason I could come up with east is because I don't like to ride early in the morning. I ride in the afternoon because I'm not an early bird. And the sun sets in the west. So I don't have to ride into the sun every night. So that was really the only reason why I chose east. So I took the bike into Europe so I could keep going east. And then my plan was to go through Europe. So I went through like Belgium and Germany, Holland and France and Czech Republic, went up through Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. I spent 3 months in Ukraine. went down through Transnistria, which is a small little sliver of what's left of the USSR. It's not really recognized by any countries. It's in between Ukraine and Moldova. They have their own money. They speak Russian. They have their own kind of government, but it's not really official. So this is Transnistria. Spent a few days there. And then I went to Moldova, spent a few weeks there, spent 3 months in Romania, spent a month in Bulgaria, spent a month in Greece. I've been here in Turkey the last 10 months because really my plan was come from Greece into Turkey, spend 2 or 3 months and explore, and then go into like Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and then cross the Caspian Sea, and then go into all the sand countries, because that's really where my heart's at, man. I want to see Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, I want to see Mongolia, and that's why I brought a dirt bike, because, man, they don't have paved roads, so you don't have an option. You're not taking a Harley Road King on this stuff, man, and like that's like my real goal for this trip. And then after that, I was just going to continue on through Russia, and I wanted to ride something called the Road of Bone, which has a pretty interesting story. So if anyone's got some Google capabilities, type in Road of Bones. And
the Road of Bones.
Road of Bones. They actually paved the bones with the people that were working on it because they died so often. There wasn't any way to bury them, so they just buried them in the road. So you'll be riding, and there'll be a femur or a skull. Because tens of thousands of people died building this road. It was essentially a work camp for.
Holy crap! And, that's crazy.
It's like thousands of miles, because I mean Russia's huge, man. I mean, like you look at Russia. I met a friend of mine here in Turkey, in Antalya, and he rode a train for 6 days to go from Siberia to Moscow, and then he flew from Moscow in 3 hours to Antalya, where we are in Turkey. But his vacation, half of it was just getting out of Siberia. It's that big.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Incredible.
You know what blows my mind?
What's that, bro?
This was you were just going to go down to Peru and go check it out, and look at you. I mean, and this turned into like let's go around the world and spend kind of, the next decade or two just traveling on motorcycle around.
And that's it, man. I mean, you're only young once, and I don't want to waste my youth like sitting at home watching the game. And like I know I really, and I say this only half joking, because I really don't know how to be like that normal person where I work 40 hours a week, and I have a wife and a kid, and none of those things aren't great. I mean, if that really is what makes you happy and excites you every morning to get out of bed, man, more power to you. Like my little brother, that is his life. He loves to be at home, and he has his like fiance, and they have their baby, and he has like his own little hobbies, like doing farm stuff, chickens, computer games. That's awesome. And then I pan the camera towards me, and I would literally wash my mouth out with a revolver after like 3 weeks. I don't have that in me.
It's just not you, man. It's not you. So do you see yourself doing this when you're in your 60s? Are you gonna be doing the same thing? You're gonna be traveling the world? Are you just gonna be a world travel? That's your.
I look at myself as being like a global citizen, because it doesn't make sense. It's not that I don't love coming home to the United States. It's an amazing country, huge opportunity, and very patriotic. Spent some time working with the military in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I really believe our country is by far the best country in the world, obviously. But I mean, there's just so much opportunity when I'm traveling in other places like here in Turkey. And I ride through these little villages, and these people have like 3 goats and a mud brick house. Damn, I don't know how you make that jump, because like I grew up not poor, but we didn't have like extra money. We didn't have like the latest PlayStation or whatever. Like I had a bicycle, and I rode my bicycle, and I mean, it wasn't the latest and greatest toys and all this, but I never went hungry. That struggle I never had, right?
Sure.
But like it's not fair to compare like us in the developed world to someone in Bolivia, for example, where they don't even have electricity. In some ways, I actually envy them. Because they're much happier. I mean, you look at the average. I was
gonna say they're probably some of the happiest people in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, they spend time.
They're not on Facebook all day. They're not on Facebook.
The distraction of the endless portal to the world. They don't even care. They spend time with their kids, and they go fishing, and they go hiking, and they go like living their life, and they're actually making memories. Whereas you look at like the average person in the United States, man, like they're broke, they're overweight, they're depressed, their life's trash, and they can't figure out why. And I think a lot of it has to do with they don't know what they want, so therefore they never go and get it. And And that's just such a huge, crucial thing. Like, once you know what you want and also what you don't want, that's also important. You can design your life around it. And my God, like, if you really stick to it and you really are persistent, I mean, there's nothing you can't do. I mean, I have no doubt if I would have stayed in the United States the last 5 years instead of traveling, I would have a net worth deca-million dollars. But my question is, at what cost? Like,
Sure.
for me, it would be the cost of living with Tora Homora Indians in Mexico, or riding my motorcycle in Peru and seeing Machu Picchu, or coming here to Turkey and just getting lost and exploring in ancient cities and cultures. And man, for me, money's not everything. There has to be some kind of mix in between there, because if you can't take care of yourself, obviously you can't take care of others. But once you can provide a good living for yourself, you pretty much conquered the world, and then you can really decide what you want out of your life.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of this whole thing is it's not an intellectual move. You got to have big balls. I mean, you got to decide what you want, and then you got to like you said, burn the bridges and do it, man. And you did it. I mean, not many people can do that. I couldn't do it. I mean, I got locked into the the machine, just like everybody else does. So
yeah, that's exactly it. And it really is a machine. It's a soul crushing cycle, and you're earning money you don't need at a job you don't like to impress people you don't care about with
sure,
shit you don't even need. And that to me is the definition of insanity. I'm all about capitalism. I'm not saying anything about that, but like, I think the problem is in the United States we have very little financial education, and this is wherein lies the problem. Because most people stop reading books the moment they're done with school. Once you're done with high school or college, that's it. I'm done learning. And
absolutely.
To me, one of my favorite quotes was by Jim Rohn. He said, "A formal education will make you a living, but a self-education will make you wealthy." And man, he hit the nail on the head. I mean,
absolutely.
I try to read a book every month. I don't always hit that goal, because sometimes when you're riding the bike, you just do whatever you do. But some months you read 3 books. I mean, it just kind of comes and goes, right? So I do believe if you're really focused on making yourself a better person, it doesn't have to just be like meditation like you see in the movie and you're like, it's learning, it's growing, it's making yourself a better person, it's making the world a better place. And for me, like, that's really what I try to do. Like, when I'm out traveling, I'm not just out gallivanting. I try to find ways to give back and help people in communities, because it's a pretty hollow existence when your whole goal in life is just to chase tail and drink beer, right? So there's only so much beer you can drink until it all tastes the same. So you have to have a little yin to the yang, and it always makes life much
better. Sure. That's awesome, dude. I think this has probably been the longest interview I've ever done, man. We'll probably cut this into
baby, we did it.
Yes, sir. We'll probably cut this into two interviews, so and do part 1, part 2, but for the young people that are trying to,
we wanted to.
What's that?
You can even come back for a part 3. I'm not scared, man. Don't.
Oh yeah. Hey, we'll have to revisit you, man, on your travels. But
sure.
For a young person that's watching this, man, just give them some advice, man. In terms of I feel like I'm free because I've been self-employed since I was in my 20s, But I'm part of the machine too. I mean, I don't have a job, and I don't have to. I don't have a boss, or I haven't had any of that stuff, and I get to do what I want. I enjoy what I do. But my God, man, I'm not on a motorcycle, traveling to Ukraine.
Sure. Well, and that's a whole different thing, right? So, I mean, like, you kind of have to go about it where, like, you're living a great life. There's probably 90% of the population in the developed world would love to trade shoes with you. You don't have a boss. My God, you wake up when you want, you do what you want, you work with who you want. You don't have to show up and listen to some idiot that you didn't get to choose to work next to, but just so happens he has the same job, right? So for me, I applaud you for doing that. That's pretty awesome, because so many people just take no initiative. They just want to get a job that's safe and secure. And man, like Ben Franklin said, it's a sliding scale. The more security you have, the less freedom. The more freedom you have, the less security. But I mean, it takes big brass balls to say, I don't want security. I don't want your bullshit retirement. I want to live life on my terms. So that is pretty cool for you, man. So I applaud that. That's awesome.
I appreciate it, but yeah, dude, it's just there's a whole new movement too, man. When you go on YouTube, you see these people that are the van life. People are living out of vans and they're traveling the country, and they got their own YouTube channels. And they're backpacking through Europe, or it's just kind of people are waking up to the fact that you don't have to have a lot of money to have a great lifestyle. You don't have to have a lot.
Exactly it. Yeah, I think that's the problem. Is like that lie was propagated for a very long time, but now because of the advent of social media, you can see these guys in a van, right? Like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there was no social media. There was the very beginning of Facebook, but like only early adopters were really on that platform. And the same with YouTube. There was no YouTube channels for people traveling, at least that I saw 10, 15 years ago. There probably was the beginnings of it, but I mean, once again, now you have a plethora. You have 100 doing anything. And like, I remember as a kid, the Saturday Night Live skit, I think it was Chris Farley, and he's like, and you're living in a van down by the river. And that was like an insult. That was a terrible. And now it's literally like someone's whole goal for their life is to live in a van down by the river. And everyone's like, yeah, cool, that's okay. You can do that. So I think there is a lot of people waking up to that, man. And I think, you know, if I was going to tell someone, you were asking me earlier, a young person what to do, I would be very, very, very intentional, because that guy living in the van down by the river, he had intent. He bought a van and built it to make it and had it. Just like me, I bought my motorcycle. I was intentional. I wanted it to go on the dirt, and I wanted it to be street legal but still capable. So when I had the idea of everything I wanted, I also knew what I didn't want. I didn't want a big, heavy Harley. I didn't want something without suspension. So I think it's that way with everything in life. If you're intentional and you really say, okay, I want to be financially independent by the time I'm 30. That's what I told myself at 15. I didn't care how I was going to do it. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew it was going to happen. And for me, I was just pushing and pushing every day, every week. And there's weeks and weeks, man. Sometimes you don't get traction. Sometimes you're going to get kicked in the teeth, but you're going to dust yourself off. You're going to pick up the pieces and you're going to move forward, because I mean, there's a lot of people that are way dumber than you and I with a lot more money, that are much more financially successful. I mean, I look at some of these people that I see talking on a few of these podcasts for real estate, and I'm like, I understand this guy knows very little about a very specific topic, but like there's riches and niches. So that niche he knows about, it makes him millions. But then the other part comes out is like, he probably doesn't even know how to tie his own shoes because he's not very confident about life stuff. But he's like an idiot savant when it comes to that one riches and niches piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. And you are very intentional, but you're also you go with your gut and you just go for it. I mean, and that's a big part of just, I guess your lifestyle. You know, if you hadn't made that decision, I'm just going to freaking take a motorcycle and I'm going to go down to Peru. I'm going to freaking do it, and we'll see what happens. You know?
Yeah, why not? Figure it out along the way.
I don't know about camping, but I'm going to take a tent with me, and I'll learn to camp. I'll learn.
I mean, like, you can learn all these things. There's plenty of YouTube and different, all kinds of like hobby enthusiasts on YouTube, on Facebook. There's groups and groups and groups of people that do all this kind of stuff. And I think the idea, as long as you have like a clear vision, what is your goal? Okay, well, how do you get to it? And then you can like reverse engineer it. Like me being financially independent, I wanted to replace my income as an aircraft mechanic. How can I do that? Oh, well, I can buy a quadplex and I can make it nice, blah, blah, blah. When you break it down piece by piece, inch by inch, it's a cinch, right? But when you have like these huge, huge boulders and you got to break it down, man, a lot of times these building blocks, they look like stumbling blocks at first glance because you can't see past it. Like you can't see the mountain because this first rock is blocking the perspective.
It's overwhelming. Exactly.
It really is. And I think that's the whole thing. I mean, like, why do they give you a recipe when you're learning how to cook? Because if they just said make a turkey for Thanksgiving, man, you're going to burn down the house. But if they say, like, put the bird in the oven in this pan, and put it with this sauce, like, you're going to make the same turkey grandma's made for the last 60 years, and it's going to come out fantastic.
Yep. There's a recipe to success, recipe to living life on your own terms. Do you have any books that people should check out that you really like, that really, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a big one. I try to get everybody to read that, especially young kids.
Man, I'm a big fan of giving this book away. I bought that book by the cases. I usually buy like a case is 18 books, I think, 20 books. So I've gone through probably 20 cases of these books. I just hand them out like candy. And I even go in the front and I sign like a handwritten note, like, this book really touched me. I hope you enjoy page, and I'll just flip to a random page 37. about where he's talking about how he made the money for the first time, melting down the toothpaste bottles or whatever, because it's really that important. And I want someone to actually read it. Like if I give you something like this, like it has the power to change your life. And if you use it as a coffee coaster, that's great. But who knows? Maybe if they don't read it, someone else will. And
Sure.
that's
Maybe their kid will pick it up someday or something. Yeah.
That's what
That
I
book
pray.
is that book has
it's
changed
true,
so many lives, man. It's changed so many lives. And it's a game changer if you're a young person trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. Highly suggest you get that book and crack it and read it from cover to cover 2 or 3 times.
I've read that book probably 30 times. I read it about every year. I get new nuggets every time I read it. I've read that book so many times, and I'm like, I remember that part. Okay, and it's like just little mental notes. And I take I make quotes of different things I find in books, and I keep them saved just on a backed up drive. And I don't know what I'm going to do with these quotes. I mean, I haven't ever actually looked at them. I just have them stacked in there, and I'm sure at some point I'll probably read through them and kind of mind meld a little bit of it. But man, other books that I've really enjoyed. There's one called The Richest Man in Babylon. And
yes.
That book, man, it's awesome because there's a lot of ideas that it was not actually written in Babylonian times, but they used Babylon as a set. And because they were really the first guys to use finances and money like we have. And it's cool because right now, even I'm here where Babylon was just 3 months ago. And there's a part of Turkey that touches Iraq, and I was there, and that's where Babylon was. And when I was in Iraq, I actually got to go to the Hanging Gardens in Babylon. So that part made it special for me. But just that book and talking about how money works, and like the king of Babylon wanted to teach his wise man how to be wealthy. So he brought the wealthiest man from Babylon, and the wealthy man taught other people how to be wealthy. I mean, it makes sense. Like there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, right? Absolutely. And it's basically just timeless wisdom, that kind of stuff. And probably the other book I would really recommend, 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. Tim Ferriss, he's got a podcast too, and I've listened to a few episodes. He's got some heavy hitters like Arnold Schwarzenegger and guys like that come on there, and like they talk about goals and dreams and work, and not just like the normal foofy stuff like, oh, tell me about your next movie. I don't give a shit about that. They're talking about like what it was like when you were like hustling and grinding, and that's pretty cool. And that 4-Hour Work Week book, it really kind of opened my mind to the fact that I didn't have to be on top of everything. I didn't have to wear every single hat. I could delegate. I could hire a virtual. I could use the technology we have today exponentially and not have to do things that are time suck. Paying bills. My God, you can do it all online today. Why would you waste time going somewhere to pay a bill when you can just do it once and it's done? And you don't even have to think about it. Just every month draws out, you can move on with life.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me too. E-Myth Revisited too. You know, you're either a technician or you're an entrepreneur. You don't, you know, if you're standing behind a counter making sandwiches, you're in your own business. You basically bought yourself a job, you know. But if you hire people to make sandwiches and you manage them and get 10 locations, now you're the entrepreneur. So yeah, kind of the same concept, man. Delegation and learning to work smart, not hard.
Same thing. I mean, I always kind of looked like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The part 2 to that was the financial quadrant or something like that. And it had like
cash flow quadrant. Yes.
Cash flow quadrant. That's it. And man, like that really is kind of that same idea. Like, do you want to be the employee or the small business owner, the big business owner, or the investor? And I actually love that so much. On my car, I have the cash flow quadrant with all the adjectives and everything that it describes on my dashboard. Because every time I'm going to a meeting when I'm home, I look at that and I'm thinking, am I in the investor quadrant or am I in the small business? Because I don't want to be in the small business. Small business is great for a little while, but you do what you have to for a little while, so later you can do what you really want. And
absolutely, that
was kind of influential for me, the cash flow quadrant. So much so that it's on my dashboard and I look at it all the time. I love it.
Nice. Nate, I think we put in some time here, man. It was good information, and we're going to check back with you from time to time. But in the meantime, how do people locate you? How can they follow you, follow your journeys?
Follow my journey. Come on Instagram. I'm Nate the Nomad Allen, and I'm there with a motorcycle. A bunch of pictures. I started Instagram about 2 years ago when I left for this leg of the trip, coming down through Mexico and across Europe. Scroll through there. Get some inspiration. I talk a little bit about the finances of stuff because Like most people believe you need $9 million in the bank to do this kind of travel. It's just simply not the case. I mean, I'm spending less than $1,000 a month pretty much every country I'm in, even here in Turkey. I mean, I think last month I spent $742, something like that. And that was even buying a year-long residency permit for $185. So everything else besides that $185 was living and gas, and food, and insurance. So yeah, man, check it out. I'd love to share the journey with you on Instagram. There's a lot of cool stuff on there, and I'm wanting to put together a travel TV show about this lifestyle design concept, but that's still a work in progress, and it's going to take a little bit more gusto. But man, we got it.
Well, if you need investors, let me know, man. That'd be a fun fun thing to invest in.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, because we're going to bring a film crew, and basically just I'm going to do everything that I'm doing, just capture it. Because I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that doesn't make it to the gram, because man, like it would be a full-time job, and that's the whole goal, is not to turn this trip into a job. But if I have people chasing me with 2 cameras and a sound mic and some lighting, man, we can capture some really crazy, awesome, cool things. And that's kind of what I want to do, is show, it's educational, but also it's informative. Like, look, this is what a $9 a night hotel looks like in Turkey. It's beautiful. It's spectacular. And I don't think people in the United States have a perspective on that, because when you travel in the States, the cheapest hotel you're going to stay in $70 a night, and it's just god awful. I wouldn't go in there with a flamethrower and a machine gun, because you're going to need them both to get out.
Yeah, no, I think that would be fascinating, man. I think you're onto something. I really think you should pursue that. I think that'd be a good idea. And you definitely want to check Nate the Nomad out on Instagram. You will not be disappointed, I promise. Nate, we appreciate you coming on, man. Enjoy, the rest of your travels, and we when you come home, let's go ride motorcycles, brother.
Absolutely, brother. I'm looking forward to it. Let's do it.
All right, man. Take care.
Be safe. Yeah.